Right, what's the story, everyone? Welcome to what are we called? The Icebreakers, our little podcast that we've decided to do because we are no lifers, talking about just a weekly recap of ICE CS, Irish Collegiate Esports CS scene. I am joined by two lovely men, the upcoming journalist himself, Thorin of Irish Esports, Fleming. Say hello.
Hello, how's it going?
And then I'm joined by Yu, star player, Pauper, IGL, do it all, skinny man himself,
Jesus.
Kenny
Ben
S
Longer,
himself.
Kenny S. I said
Very
skinny
good.
man. You said Kenny S. Yeah, so basically the format is we're just going to be talking about and recapping what has been going on in the scene. So we're going to be starting off with last week's games, discussing if there are any upsets, any surprises whatsoever. Moving on, then we'll go on to next week's games, predictions, what that will mean for the further brackets and standings, and then we'll take a look at the actual standings as they are. So I suppose we'll kick it off now. Now let's Group A. What do we think? Was there anything interesting happen at all?
No.
Todd,
it's a typical.
Todd won. What a
Yeah, I
surprise.
mean, it's a typical week in ice. Just twos across the board. The teams that really have the most quality, just doing their thing, isn't it? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at it. I don't think I could list anything that was a possible surprise. I imagine UL Tropics. Did they get 16 out again? Does anyone have that data?
oh, hold on, I'll be able to find out if you get.
I don't
Yeah, here
believe
we go.
so.
UL
Someone get the
Tropics.
Get 5 up.
16-1 and 16-2, so not quite.
Yo.
They're getting there. They're building these rounds up. Maybe they'll get 5 rounds next week. Who knows? And then yeah, like there weren't too many more surprises. UCC and MTUC played.
I heard UCC got a star super sub in for Otter.
Yeah, they kicked their
yeah.
IGL for this one.
Yeah, and they brought in young Ankle Joints, who I believe is the second highest rated player in ICE at the moment, or
Ankle
second
joints?
highest ADR maybe according to the Get 5. So he's
high
one to
praise.
watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets another game in this season, we'll definitely get to watch him, but we'll see about that. And then NUIG, their A team got smacked by TUD. I don't think
Yeah,
anyone's surprised there,
fairly
really.
expected. Like,
I saw the cast sawed off YouTube is the clip.
Yeah. that
wait, he
sounds
got
like
he
him.
got an ace with the sawed off against them.
Yeah, he got an ace
Oh,
with the sawed off and Verizon.
fuck, that's
You know what the thing
embarrassing.
is there as well, though? Like, NUIGA actually aren't bad.
Yeah.
Like, the teams of our caliber, Ben especially, like,
Yeah.
they'd be a tough
me
team to
especially,
play.
yeah.
And, like, he's just acing with a sawed off. That's just really just a
Yeah,
testament.
it's crazy.
They just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Evidently.
Yeah, Group A just wasn't anything interesting, really. Like, I considering it's the most stacked group as well, or it's meant to be. Like, it's still turned out to be like every other season, which is just TUD having fun
Yeah.
and then seeing what the rest can do. Like, it's nothing too special. And then Group B, does anyone have anything interesting from Group B from last week?
I mean,
Honestly, I can't even get the Get 5 up. Or the
well, yeah. So just to let
Crazy.
everyone know, TCD beat UL3 Sports, TD Apes, AVP, and NUIG Griffins Tail Feather went 1-for-1. UCDC lost 2 to DCU. Waterford had their bye. I mean, it was kind of, the two results out of Trinity and DCU, both thoroughly expected. I don't think anyone's really too surprised there. But TD Apes and NUIG are just locked in this battle to try to get fourth. And it's upsetting whenever a team goes 1-for-1, whenever someone desperately needs to win that. And I mean, NUIG get to hold on to fourth spot for a little bit, but I think they're separated by like 2 or 3 points. So it comes down to these last 2 weeks for either of those teams to really secure themselves.
Do we know? Actually, I'll quickly check. So TD Apes are playing WIT next week, and the week after that, they are playing UCDC. So it is possible. I mean, it'll be a close actually. Group B looks like fourth place is going to be a real battle. It's kind of hard to know, but like you said, yeah, it is disappointing from both sides. I imagine they both went into it assuming they'd get the 2-0 and that they'd be sorted for fourth, but obviously that's not really what happened. And then yeah, the dominant theme of Group B is just DCU smacking people about. Like,
Jeez, that last map on TUD, AVP, and NUIG, Tailfeather, that 1-1. Ghosty dropped a 34 at
34.
15.
Yeah, that's
Fuck.
outrageous.
That's crazy. 1.65 rating, 128
And like they obviously showed then there that they could win, but in the first map it just felt like they didn't even turn on their monitors. Like they got beat 16-4. That's
Yeah,
just an absolute massacre.
yeah.
that's just a one-player performance there. There's a guy with 8 kills and a guy on your team with 34 kills. That's just
Fuck.
that's what I call. Maybe he's a good player. I don't know the guy, but that's what I call a life game because he got 12 on the map before.
Fucking
So,
Jesus. Yeah.
yeah.
And then WIT safe just with that buy. Actually, out of curiosity, we're going to move around a little bit here. What do you guys reckon the overall standings will be for Group B? Do you reckon is it looking like it'll be WIT second and Trinity third, or is it vice versa? Or does anyone know where that is right now?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Both seem to be underperforming from what people thought they would be this season. So
Yeah.
I'm really not sure what way it's going to go.
I mean, looking at WIT from last year, like it's
Yeah,
quite a
it's
dramatic drop off, isn't it?
stark difference. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember they played us in the semis last year and we got smacked about. Now I
Yeah.
know there's we had a sub that game and they had Kerbenji. There's no Kerbenji this season, but
Yeah.
even in those games I played, I thought there were plenty other good players on their team, and they've just fell off this season. It seems.
Yeah. I have actually heard though that Kerbenji's talking about coming back for next season.
Oh, here
Breaking news.
that'll be interesting.
Breaking news. I don't know how reputable that source is, but that's just what I've heard along the grapevine. But that'd be different. Like it kind of just speaks to the impact that he had. Like it kind of implies to me that not only was he their star, but he could have even been helping out with the calls. Because
Yeah,
a
for
team that had a good core that they did last season, and like it's not like he hard carried every game because they had good players. It just looks like they're wandering about having no clue. Like I
Yeah.
actually thought they'd have a good game against DCU.
Yeah, did they not get 16-0'd one of the
Yeah,
maps?
yeah, something around that. And
Ooh.
like that is brutal.
That's
I,
unfortunate.
I know DC are a good team, but 16-0 against that team that WIT were last year, that just
Yeah,
seems unthinkable to me.
as well as the fact DCU don't practice. They turn up,
Yeah.
they run around,
Yeah.
and they win. Like it's just,
Oh, that
it's another
enrages
one of
me
those.
so much. Like,
Yeah, it's like TUD Part Two.
Yeah,
Like
just
it's
so
just
much talent on that team. It's
yeah.
crazy.
What would you guys say would be like the DCU win factor for going forward, like into playoffs? Like what's stopping them from winning the entire thing? And don't say TUD.
Yeah, I was gonna say TUD, but
same.
I think at the minute TUD are the only thing that could stand in their way. Now I know people were talking about back six a lot,
Mm,
and I know they had ping issues in their recent game with TUD, but even ping issues aside, I don't know if I don't know how they'll match up against the likes of a DCU who like TUD just show up and shoot heads nearly.
mm,
Yeah, and it's hard to know how that will go down.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, other than TUD, I don't really see who's going to stand in DCU's way this season.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines, to be honest. And then obviously knowing now what I know about DCU not really pracking and just trying to scrim, I mean, it's going to look like a game of matchmaking, isn't it, between TUD
Mhm.
and DCU? So
Totally.
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's like it's the same play style. It'll be really curious. I'd be really curious. Like obviously TUD would have the better lineup in terms
Yeah.
of man for man, but I mean, like the way DCU is kind of built, like even their lesser players can turn up sometimes and
It's
just take over the
crazy,
game.
yeah. Like players like Simplify and Magic can just absolutely pop off and take over a game.
And like looking at just their elo alone, like they're pretty low elo considering what they can do in the server. Like it
Yeah.
is like I don't know. I feel like they could definitely be underestimated. And I know from talking to like Simplify and the likes of those guys, their sole goal this season is to beat UCDA. They just because they lost last
Yeah.
2 seasons ago, something along those lines. They lost in semis to UCD, and they're out for the revenge. Given the state
I
of
see it
UCD,
coming. I see it
yeah,
coming. Like, yeah.
given the state of those lads right now, like just that team kind of not being in the best place and DCU just chilling. I think I would favor DCU. What about you, Jez?
Yeah, I'm definitely favoring DCU at the minute with few of the issues I've heard from down the grapevine. Yeah, for sure. Especially the fact UCDA lost to NCI
Yeah,
recently.
I was going to bring that up as well. Yeah, they've
Yeah,
already dropped
that's
them up,
rough.
and it's not even playoffs yet. Don't get wrong, I'm
Yeah,
not expecting people to just cruise through the entire tournament, but
yeah, they must be having some serious issues because last year we went 1-1 against NCI in a team that
Mm,
I don't think is as good as our team this season.
yeah,
yeah, but you have to say
UCDA
that.
last season were
that's true. Yeah,
yeah,
you got to say you're
UCDA
better.
last season were really good with the same roster. So yeah, there must be some serious issues going on there.
I think like this isn't just because like I know the guys, but it's also maybe a little bit of the fact that like it's a lot of their last seasons together, and
Yeah,
like before they were like, okay, we're going to get the finals, but what then? And whether they'd win or lose in the finals, that was
yeah,
only their
exactly.
consideration. Now there's the added pressure of fuck, this is my last season for the likes of Incipients, for the likes of some of the other guys who
Yeah,
may go on to do masters, but still they want to be like, okay, I really want to win this season, rather than the no pressure approach that they took before. And I don't think it's a good start dropping dropping the series actually to NCI,
Yeah, too.
especially in the manner that they did. Now they did have to play with a substitute for map two, but I mean the circumstances that that sub had to come in for don't really don't tell a good story for UCD's
no,
lineup going forward.
no, I wouldn't think so. Yeah, it's looking a bit scary for them this season. And especially the fact that there's plenty of other good teams now this season. I think this is the best season of Ice at least I've played in
Mm.
a long time. There's so many good teams this season, so many quality lineups. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for anyone that doesn't know, I'm not going to name the name, but one of the UCD players left for map two against NCI to go play an ESEA game.
Gee,
Yeah.
get me the fuck out of here.
So welcome to Irish CS.
Yeah.
So yeah, that went around. That got memed a bit. Um, that's something that they'll have to deal with internally, I think.
What level of ACA was it at least?
Open.
Open,
Oh, for fuck's
open.
sake.
So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Well,
that's
I
outrageous.
think it was a game to make playoffs, but still, if you're playing on ice, don't schedule your game for the day you're playing on ice.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
plus at the same time, like you're not gonna win money from making playoffs in an ACA
Mm.
Open unless then you get picked up by some shady org that locks you into a
Yeah,
contract for 2 or 3 years on the off chance you
there
have
must be
talent.
some sort of internal issues there
Yeah, yeah.
to already schedule a game for around then. There must already be
Yeah.
some other issues going on there. But
I think it's like also a bit of a waste of talent just on UCD. Like man for man, that roster, even just on Elo, on Face It, like they're really skilled
yeah,
players individually. If they just practiced, they would
yeah,
be
for
so
sure.
good.
I
Like
reckon they could be a quality team if they practiced.
it's
No,
just
I don't know if they practice for the likes of playing like TUD, for example, like
yeah.
in finals in previous years. But I feel like if they just practiced, like maybe even last year they could have challenged TUD because I know their first map went to overtime. They could even,
Mm.
nick the map off TUD, which would have been big in itself. So
Yeah, it just kind of feels like they just go into every map not unprepared, but just that they reckon their aim is going to take them through,
yeah,
rather
for
than
sure.
concentrating more so on maybe like the back six approach, which is really solid team play.
Yeah,
Because I mean, there was a reason everyone hyped up maybe back six beating TUD because it was the idea of the battle of the two styles of CS.
Yeah.
Puggy just fucking around, seeing if you win the aim deals,
yeah,
versus really coordinated, structured Counter Strike. And maybe if UCD don't play TUD's game, which is just losing aim duels, and they play the back six game, which is thinking about what they're going to do before the game, have a really good plan, start watching some demos. I actually don't know if they watch many demos, maybe for the TUD games, but maybe if they actually did respected the NCI guys a little bit more, and maybe viewed them as more of a worthy opponent, and actually started watching demos, trying to counter them a bit, they probably would have lost 2-0.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but what were the scores in the maps again? It was something like 16-9, one of the maps. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up here.
What two teams? UCD and
NCI.
NCI. I'll find that in a second. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I definitely one of them was close, and the other one was not close, from what I can remember.
Yeah,
But that's not very descriptive. And then even looking at more about Group D, I think their group's wrapped up now for the season.
yeah,
Like UL is another team I think we might have been looking at to do well. I actually could have seen them beating UCD, which would have been really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. That they've a couple of good players, and
Yeah,
isn't it Hano and Milk in
Hano, Milk, Zombinator. Like, I
yeah,
mean, I don't know how active Zombinator has been the last few years. I know he's the president of their esports society, so he's taken a back step for that, or a step back for that. But
yeah,
he's still a crack player. Like, it's a really solid
yeah,
lineup.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and like they've got a deep player pool in UL. So like there's always potential for practice, even in 10 months. Like they host a lot of that. Like they're doing
Yeah.
more than the likes of UCD are. Um, yeah. Did you find the score,
Yeah.
Ryan?
So 16-9 in the first map to NCI, and then 19-17 in the
Ooh,
second map, which
didn't know it
Yeah.
went to overtime. Fair
is
enough.
interesting. I assume, yeah. So the second map is the one that they had the sub in. They actually ended
Yeah,
up doing better.
how'd the sub do?
Who was it? Harry. He had
Yeah.
said
Yeah,
Boyo.
I think that.
11 for 31.
Oh,
You see, I like that doesn't really tell a story though, because I think
Yeah.
he didn't expect to ever actually play a game. Like they
yeah,
wanted to just have a sub, and like I know Harry plays Rocket League. He doesn't play CS anymore. He's a former teammate of mine, and
Yeah.
like when he does play CS, I mean, yesterday he went on to win an event
I was
in a
about to
wingman
say,
tournament.
yeah.
So like
yeah,
he's not a unskilled individual. I think he just wasn't expecting the player in
yeah,
UCD to ditch and put him in this spot. But obviously, I mean, you got to be disappointed if you're the A team guys. Like,
yeah.
had they
No,
had their full
that's
team, that's a
crazy.
1-1.
Even if you had mental reset after the first map, if you had the likes of Reboot, I know for I, I don't really know how skilled Harry is, but I know Ruben's at least like elo wise, he's level 10. He's good. He's a good individual player, So that they could have easily got another map there maybe if
Yeah,
they had been playing with their full team.
yeah, and like if we see like tilting against a team like NCI, who are a good team, they've good players, but they're not the best team.
Yeah,
Like, what? How are you going to fare mentally coming up against tougher teams? Maybe like UCC, like a
yeah,
really solid
for
team
sure.
with practices with a lot of individually really skilled players.
Yeah,
Like that's a map that UCD I'm sure will go into expecting to win. What if it doesn't start going their way? Like, are one of their players going to go ditch and do a face of pug, like
yeah,
QICL? Like,
exactly.
what's going to happen
yeah,
then? Um,
s-
yeah, I just want to see a little bit more. Like, I would like to see because I am friends with some of those guys. I'd love to see them get to the finals, but the way they're playing right now, I just don't see it as a possibility.
yeah.
Um, and then we've skipped over one group, the most important group, I would
Of
say,
course, yes.
our own group, Ben,
Yeah,
Group C. So some actual interesting games this week. Ben, you're probably the best person to talk us through. How the
yeah.
fuck did you 2-0 MTU?
Easiest
Yeah.
2 of my life. No, we played Mirage and Overpass. Mirage was actually a bit of a wash for us. It was 16-9, which I know you were surprised at least some.
Mhm.
But I think we just. I'm not going to say MTU are only Nalco because they're not, but Nalco's obviously a big part of their success. Highest rated player in the entirety ice this season.
Yeah.
Um,
I
puts
mean,
up
let's be
crazy
real. If
numbers.
if you have to preface what you're saying with "this is not what I'm saying," it's probably going to sound like that's what you're saying,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is a bit. No, I'm not quite saying that. They do have a lot of quality players, but I think across the board as a team, we have more solid players than they have. I think they put a lot of stock in the Nalco, especially on his op, because he can just completely shut down areas of the map when he's op, and he's crazy in the op.
So
So
why did he not do it on Mirage?
on Mirage, I think we shut him out a lot on Mirage.
Tonzi had a
We
pretty fucking good game, like
Yeah,
just skipping
on
through the
T
VOD.
side, T side Mirage. Now on CT, I know he only got 2 frags or something on CT, but on T side he got 16 frags. He was getting entries all over the show on A
Mhm.
side,
Yeah.
and a lot of what I was doing, we were avoiding mids quite a lot, and then I was selling fakes towards B, and I think Malco was playing towards CT, and he was like rotating off, and then
Mhm.
he was never at the right bomb site when the hit came in, stuff like that. We just shut him out. Now
And then
on
what two?
Overpass, he got a chance. He got 34 kills on Overpass.
Yeah.
You know, still top frag the server, even though his team didn't win. But Overpass was a much closer affair, definitely. He activated his up a lot more on CT side, so
Yeah,
yeah.
it looked like you guys were going to throw on
Yeah,
Overpass.
for sure. We started choking it a bit, and then we sort of just came to the realization of we were playing it a bit too slow and a bit too safe, and we
Yeah.
sort of just pugged out the last few rounds and got us over the line. Um, Tonzi didn't have the best map and overpass, but the last couple of rounds we went right. Let's 5-man out B, and he got 2 entries, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, for,
I have to say,
for sure.
I was definitely cheering for you guys to throw that.
Yeah, I'm
from my
sure you
own
would have
point of
loved a
view.
1-1.
Yeah, the 1-1 would have suited me lovely. But it puts a lot more pressure on my team now, who
Exactly.
are
If you guys are playing them this week, yeah.
yeah, and then you guys the following week.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. Then just segueing from that, myself and my team UCDB, we had maybe a bit more of a struggle against Pentabyte ITC than I think we expected. The team that are yet to win a map took 8 and 7 rounds off us,
Yeah.
which maybe doesn't sound that close, but when you consider they played us on our best map, it was definitely a little bit of a frustrating affair. They honestly played the weirdest Counter Strike I think I have ever seen in my life. Just
Yeah.
couldn't expect what they were doing.
They kind of just, and you know, they kind of it's another kind of one-player team, I guess, in a sense. Sometimes they have a couple of good players, and then they've just one amazing player in Dr. Cock. But what a name! What a name!
Yeah.
That is the best
PhD
name
in
in ice.
penis.
Yeah. Well, what a guy! What a player, honestly. But they do he sort of uses them as bait a bit sometimes, I find. So I'm not really sure if that's the best way they should play, or if they should maybe start sending him in first, for example. His
Yeah.
teammates can trade on maybe lower HP players, things like that.
Yeah.
I just find a lot of T rounds he's letting his team go in first, and his team obviously aren't of the same quality he is. They're not getting all the kills like he would.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be organized for the game anyway, so I watched some demos,
Yeah.
and you say maybe they're not the same level as Dr. Cock. I don't even like that's quite literal. They were looking at the ground. Their crosshair placement was literally looking at the ground
Yeah.
most of the time. So there definitely is a huge skill gap, and I'm not sure. I'd love to know the relationships of a lot of the players on these kind of teams because, like for the likes of MTU, like is Nalco shouting at his team the entire time, and is like Dr. Cock shouting at his teammates? Or are they all just mates having fun? Because like if I was the hard carry on a team, I'd find it so hard not to be frustrated if I'm dropping 34 on what is your favorite map in Nalco's case on overpass and still losing the game.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I think one of their players in overpass at some stage. They had to get a sub for the first map. I know there were some issues with ice there. I think one of the players got a temporary ban, something like that.
Yeah.
But he was allowed back in for the second map, and I bet they were thinking, oh great, we've got this player now. And I think he was 0-12 maybe at one stage.
Fuck.
Like he picked it up towards the ends on CT side now, but his T side he just made no impact at all.
Yeah, but that's like going 3-0 down in a game of football and then subbing a striker on, you know what I mean? It's too little too late.
Yeah, I think so. But,
yeah, I actually asked their captain, the MTU captain, this is Young Lunch Money, like how do you feel after that game? Because I did not expect this at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, I was like, yeah, when we brought in the guy for the second game, he's like, yeah, he went out for McDonald's instead of warming up. So he just couldn't do shit the entire time, which I thought was pretty funny. I was like, okay, man, all right.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, like, to be fair.
You got too old by you.
Yeah.
That's even funnier, like.
Yeah, exactly. Into Basque clowns, right? To be fair, everyone on my team stepped up there in that series. Like everyone had their moments, their halves. So,
like even further on that, like your team has just had such a fucking turnaround.
Yeah, exactly. Like the start of the season looked like it was going to be a disaster. Like I know we lost 2 to QB. Now those were close games. Like I think a dude's like diffused in the smoke on 6 HP, and we lost 3 in 16-14. Like stuff like that, But still, we still lost 2. So it's the scoreboard's the scoreboards. But yeah, no, for sure. It's also sort of went from being like Jonathan or Long and like Blue Penguin like fragging out like most games to everyone putting in a shift. I'm finding. Envy got 27 and 11 on Mirage. Like he went absolutely crazy. Like it's just performances like that. Just everyone stepped up. I think so.
Yeah, like even looking at Blue Penguin's ridiculous glow up. Like to be honest, it wasn't really a player I'd considered to be much of a threat before.
He is a quality player. Now it doesn't look like it sometimes with the moves he makes, but he does think about what he's doing sometimes. And I know he's a bit of a W warrior, as some people would call him, but Yeah,
I've watched him play both in demos. Yes, I've been watching your demos, and in the
yeah,
pugs. In the pugs that I
yeah,
with him, and like his aim is just really good, and especially
yeah,
right now, like coming off third place in the ICL 5v5 tournament,
yeah,
decent performance considering the level of competition that he would
yeah,
not meet in ice whatsoever, especially in this group.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely on one right now, and then obviously Long, the consistent man himself,
yeah. Just
like he's
Mr.
been doing it
Consistent.
for forever.
Yeah,
So like, and then really like even the fact Tonzi pulled his weight in one of the maps there the other day,
yeah, for sure.
like
Yeah.
Like,
makes a
it's
difference.
even though he didn't like pull his weight as much in overpass, like that. Shout out to Broken here, who I'm gonna slag off. If we had a Jack, I don't know if Jack would have got 16 T frags and entries with the up. You know, like it's
You
just
never
we
know.
just yeah, Broken cracked upper. No, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, for sure he really put in a shift on T side. Mirage,
Yeah, and aren't a couple of your players like this is their first real time playing as part of a team as well, so you can kind of
exactly. Like in Envy is, I think, really he's been the biggest factor to why we've improved so much. Because at the start, especially even in the games we were winning against the likes of like Pentabyte and in scrims, things like that, like he just he didn't really understand Team CS so much
I'd
because he'd
heard.
never really played in a team environment. He was a bit of an MM warrior, like he doesn't understand why he can't beat all his teammates and shift walker in the map. But for sure he's took on board a lot of advice. I think the likes of me and Jonathan have given him in terms of like trading your teammates and like swinging with your teammate,
Yeah,
like thinking about like percentages and like if you've got the bomb down to 3v3, don't take a bad fight and swing, things like that. He's
Yeah.
really starting to understand Team CS, and it's really, I think, made a big difference. Yeah,
Yeah, it's good timing for everyone to start peaking as well. Like coming towards the end where you've got
yeah,
arguably your toughest two matches.
yeah. Like
Uh
MTU and you guys, yeah, probably
yeah.
probably our two toughest matches. So
I think I really like I think it's gonna be a phenomenal game between like there
yeah,
it's gonna be close. Like we've played scrims, we all play
yeah,
with each other regularly. Like
yeah.
it's
exactly.
one set for the stars.
Yeah,
And then just
would have been nice to
backtracking.
have it streamed, but the last game was a good one streamed too for us. So yeah,
They might. I don't know. It depends what games are on that week. Maybe there's
pull
something
some
more exciting.
strings.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
No
Or
strings are cut.
No string. Well cut.
Just backtracking just a little bit onto MTU. Obviously, I have a vested interest in hearing what you have to say about them as I'm
Yeah.
playing them in a few days. What do you guys think about the state of them now, having lost to you? I was going to say you and then like finish it off. um,
Nice.
like considering the form that they had for the rest of the season, I mean, have they lost? They did lose 2-0 to QB as well, actually, in a close series. I'd
No,
forgotten
that
that.
that was that was 1-1 actually.
Was it
yeah,
actually?
that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
on
it
Oh
was
one,
a
wow.
and then
tie.
you guys went 1-1
They
with
I think they
Cubers.
brought back Vertigo. It was
Okay.
similar score to our games, 16-12, first game to QB, and then
Mm,
MTU won Vertigo 16-14.
yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So do you guys think that they're set to do well in the playoffs? I mean, it's probably fair to assume that Group C, our group, will be QUB, MTU, UCDB, and UU getting out, unless anything crazy happens.
yeah.
That's probably what we're going to see going out. How would you guys see MTU doing in the big pond with the bigger boys?
I think it depends on the teams they play.
Yeah,
There's some teams that are gonna end up getting through, like the likes of our WIT, like seeming to like make it out,
Yeah,
like teams like that. I think MTU will seriously match up well against teams sort of that caliber. The likes of like a team like Back Six, where it's a lot more like team play based and not just like one individual player popping off. I think they might struggle against the teams with more sort of balanced players, like the likes of a UCC or a Back Six, where each player pulls their weight. Instead of the likes of teams which have like hard carries, for example, like Pentabyte, you know,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
Ryan, do you echo the same?
Yeah, pretty much. Like the level of opponent that they're playing in Group C, whilst good, as you've said previously, like Group A is pretty stacked. There's, these are sort of like your gatekeeping teams where if you can beat them, you're going to be towards the upper end of a playoff. But if you can't beat them, you're not getting out of your group sort of thing. You know what I mean? Not to
Mm,
disparage you guys, but, if they're obviously they went 1-1 with Cubers. It'll be interesting to see how they go with you guys in UCD. but then they lost to which is like, you know, we've already talked that bit to death. But yeah, I sort of think they might struggle a little bit when it comes to playoffs, just based on how they've done in the group so far. But what do I know? They could just completely shut me up with Nalco in it, especially if he has a pop-off game and someone decides that they want to play with him, then...
Exactly. They have a few other good players, and I think it's is it Fraxer and Young Lanchmini as well. They can both put up a performance as well. I think Fraxer might have even outfragged Nalco in like the Mirage game, things like that. You know, so it's not quite a one-horse team, but I think they do rely on his op a lot. So
yeah, definitely.
yeah, it depends on if other teams decide to play like we did in Mirage and shut Nalco out and just try and eliminate him. You know.
Yeah. And in a not so smooth segue, we've talked about MTU and UCD playing next week. We might actually take a look at some of the other games they're on next. Anything maybe a little bit more interesting this week. So we've got Group A. Is there anything that's standing out to you guys for next week's games?
Maynooth versus UCC. Haven't Maynooth been doing decent? Sorry, I haven't been keeping up with Group A too well.
Oh, that's all right. UCC is now that's going to be a little bit weird. Every team has an extra win, just to account for the bye. So everyone got that extra win at the very start, so that no one's really playing too much catch up. UCC have one extra win over Maynooth,
Yeah,
that's going to be tight.
Yeah, I thought Maynooth would be a much better team going into the season, and it's kind of what I kind of based, like, originally when the brackets were first made. UL A team were actually in this group as well, which is a very different group.
And
it makes it a lot more competitive. But I actually thought Maynooth could be really, really good. They have one really good player, Fleming. We spoke about this guy before. You hated his username, Decilius Unicorn.
Oh, for fuck's sake, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, branding aside, he's a cracked player.
Oh, definitely.
He's really high elo, and I kind of thought if he had even one other player that could hold his own, that's a really good team. Now I don't know any of the guys there, but based on them not playing so well so far, I assume he's on his own. And against a team like you said, Ben, UCC being very well balanced, like 5 really solid, consistent players. Probably 4 actually. They're I don't think Maynooth stand a chance. Does anyone have anything to go against that at all?
Yeah, it might end up like a bit of a us versus MTU situation if they're all dependent on the performance of one player, and if other players decide to chip in. It could come down to like if they end up on say T like hitting the bomb site that their best players on like all the time,
Yeah.
like if you just avoid their good player on your like T sides, like that they can't do anything if they're in a retake 2v5, things like that,
Yeah.
So I do think UCC is going to take it. I think they have a lot of talent. Obviously bringing in the 2 new players, Linny and Milk, they're absolutely crazy players. Like Linny especially. They went from, no disrespect to Salty and Tomas. I think they're still both decent players, but you're replacing a face at level 1 and 3 with a 8 and a 10.
That's a goal.
It's a huge difference. Yeah, they're a crazy team. Like it seems mad to say that an Opper like Darkness is like probably their lowest ranked, or like I guess in terms of elo worst player. And he's still a very good player, So I think they have a very well-rounded team.
Yeah. Ryan Fleming, if you were to pick any issues with UCC, and it's probably hard enough at this stage because they've had pretty good performances overall, even taking 9 rounds off TUD themselves. Have you noticed anything, any cracks in the armor of this night, or have they looked just overall really good?
I mean, you're kind of expecting every team to be getting, not very far in A, outside of obviously just losing the TUD. They've got quite a good record so far, so unfortunately with ice, it all comes down to how teams play in the playoffs. Every group you can kind of take a look at and see who's going to make it out, and I think UCC, they haven't disappointed. I think they're going to clap Maynooth fairly well, just because
kind of sorry to interrupt, just kind of looking at Group A in general, like I don't know if it's like a really good group to like gauge the talent of teams, because no offense to MTUC and UL Tropics, like they're absolutely fucking shite. Like, and then there's TUD who are crazy, you know. And
Yeah.
I think in terms of like compared to the likes of a Group C, like where we have 4 really similarly matched solid teams, like I just think the skill difference between a lot of these teams is just
Massive.
too different. No, I think that group for UCC was decided nearly in week 1 when they 2-0'd NUIG.
Yeah.
Like that was their one probably close game, or what should have in theory been a close game in terms of like team matchups.
Mm.
And like I see them like easily just making out of the groups, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I suppose back 6 is going to be a really, really good game for UCC. They haven't played yet, right? Yeah, that's
No, yeah, that's really going to be a banger. Like that'll be an
yeah.
interesting one.
Who would you guys favor for that?
Honestly, I'm really not sure. I might favor back 6. I like a lot of the UCC lads. But I know Otter does put a lot of work into the likes of like doing demo reviewing and strats and things like that. Um, but I think like as a team, just from talking to the players, like as individuals, like UCC don't seem as cohesive as the likes of back 6, who seem, you know, they've had seasons in likes of Newell. They've been practicing their like strats for forever, you know. Whereas this brand new team with 2 new players this season, and from what I've heard, the likes of Lenny and stuff, sometimes they just let him go shoot heads. There's no like crazy
Mhm.
strats like quite often, you know. Um, yeah, at the minute I'm favoring back 6, though I suppose it depends on the performance of the player, like underscore Sean, who can just take over again. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, anything different to say on that?
Actually, yeah, I would somewhat maybe favor UCC, just because obviously I think whenever I was talking to, I can't remember at this point, it might have been yourself. We are talking about how interesting it was to have a team like back 6 who were so well drilled and, you know what I mean, well versed. I just want to see if, I feel like sometimes strats can be a little bit deceitful, because whenever you say they're organized, yeah, that's great, but maybe they end up, you know, overlooking one area of a strat, and then if you have a team like UCC just who are kind of playing a little bit loose, one of their players could just randomly exploit that. You know, they may not plan to do it beforehand, but it might just happen. I feel like if one part of a strat sort of falls apart, everyone else then just gets exposed. So I think maybe from a stylistic point of view, it could be quite interesting to watch if one of the individuals pop up, because your strats don't take that into account. Your strats assume that almost everything goes right, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle on this, and that's no fun to decide.
Are you going
But
for a tie, or
yeah,
are you one of those ones?
I don't
Yeah.
know. You see, it's an interesting clash because individually, I would actually favor UCC. I mean, like people are forgetting, like they're talking about Linny and Milk, the new players that are really high level, really good fragging power. But even their lower level player, Darkness, or even underscore Sean, as we were mentioning earlier, like these players have and can take over any game just because they're feeling it. Like
Underscore
Darkness,
Sean like went from face of level 5 to face of level 10 there in about 12 days. So
yeah, it's
he's just
ridiculous.
yeah,
Jesus
it's crazy
Christ.
player. Like
And like even like he's just really really good, and he's a player that people will typically overlook. Even I imagine if back 6 are doing their homework, they'd probably actually even avoid looking into Darkness because of his low elo. But like if he's feeling it, especially on a map like Mirage, I mean, where they can pug it out, like you were saying, the loose style, just give
Yeah.
him the room to run out with an op and kill 3. He'll do it.
yeah.
I think in that regard, I'd favor UCC. But if back 6 can control the pace a little bit and slow it down, I think the calling and experience will really favor them. And I think maybe the tilting and maybe the lack of structure and
Yeah.
IGLing from UCC. I mean, I know they've have quite a traditional IGL in Otter, but I've also heard that in some of their games, the responsibility has fallen to other players on that team
That's not
to
a good
step up.
sign. Yeah.
Yeah, and like as an IGL, you don't really want any of your other players IGLing for you. You really want to just come in and say, start of the round, here's the rough idea. We'll make a mid round call, but you want your teammates to trust in you, not your teammates to take over for you. And I think
Yeah.
depending on the relationship between the players at the current moment, I think that'll be big. If you guys were to go for a prediction on score and maps, What would you guys think would be likely? Ben, maybe.
I'm really not sure about maps. I need to see
Yeah.
what the map pool's like for both teams. Now I know I think QB and UCC both like train and overpass, so I feel like it could maybe go to one of those maps.
Mm,
I know against TUD it went to overpass train for QB. And so I know UCC like those maps just from they played train a lot last season,
yeah.
and they played it a bit with the new roster I think this season. And then
So
overpass they're quite solid on it. In terms of prediction for the series, I think you've convinced me a bit. I might go for a 1-1 here.
Yeah.
Like I know that's I know that's boring to now go back on what I've said, but I think it really depends on the performance of someone like Darkness. He can just like take over a map sometimes as well. Now I know when they played TUD on Nuke, he top fragged like against TUD, and like you wouldn't expect that from the likes of a like face it level 5 player, but he can
yeah,
just take over a game like that.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go for a 1-1. Yeah,
Would you say it's close both maps?
Yeah.
I'd say not that close. One will be
Okay.
close. I think the map that UCC will win will be close, and I think uh, QB might have more like of a blowout map where they win something like 16-9, 16-8 maybe. Yeah.
Okay. And Ryan, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I want to be the person to go, no, it'll be a 2-0 UCC. I think if they are to win a map, yeah, I think it would be a 2-0 either way. I don't really see it being a 1-1 because I feel like if UCC do pick up a map, it's because they're popping off and because they're running over things a little bit. And then obviously if QB do win, I feel like it'll just be because they're out calling them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say it's gonna be a blowout either way. Which makes it a bit interesting at least. Just with you saying you're not sure what way the calling sort of works in that team, that's really bad news because I feel like a lot of people step into the IGL role thinking, I have a good call 1 in every 3 rounds or something. And
Yeah.
it's not about providing the game winning call every single round. It's just saying anything near enough.
Mhm. Yeah.
And because I've had some people before that I've played with go, yeah, no, let me try the IGL role. And I always just step back and go, yeah, fucking take it, mate. Go on, have some
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah,
And just within
exactly.
3 rounds, it just goes silent and you have to take over again. And
The thing
every,
is, us three being IGLs kind of, or you previously being IGL as well, right? It's like sometimes it's harder than it looks. It's
yeah, and everyone
not
on the
just call
team
a strat and go
notices.
with it. Yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
everyone notices and everyone starts to lose faith in you. So I think that'll play in quite big. If the IGL can keep it together, it may make everybody comfortable enough to pop off, but I think if they start crumbling, QB will overrun them on both maps.
Yeah. I mean, you've made a good point there. Maybe Ben will change his mind again, but I, I
No, I'm
actually
set. I'm set.
you are okay. Well,
Set.
I'm actually gonna go off, and I'm gonna say 2-0 UCC, just to stir it a bit. I
Okay.
think back six, what they showed against a good team like TUD, didn't impress me, and maybe they mounted something of a little comeback. But I mean, they mounted a comeback against a team that really didn't care. They just
Yeah.
turned up, they ran around, and they won whatever rounds they wanted to win. If TUD thought they were a real threat, I think it would have been a lot. It would have been a lot more dominant of a scoreline.
Okay.
Um, I think maybe QB back six have a tendency to tilt. I don't have any inside information, but that's kind of what it looked like from
I
how
I
they
don't want to
played.
be that guy. I just want to say about their overpass. I think especially is TUD's best map. I think from what I've seen, overpass trained 2 really strong maps for TUD, and then back six obviously had the ping issues with one of their players 1 game, and then I think it was 3 the next game had something like 200 ping at
All
some
right.
stage. Like yeah, so I don't want to say that's why they lost or oh they only lost because of the ping. I think
Yeah.
TUD are a better team than back six. But
Yeah.
I think
Although to be fair, Virgin
internet
Internet.
issues aside,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
will be interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I still think I'd favor UCC.
yeah,
Like underscore Sean, like I highlighted him. I think he's a player. He's not really the player that's set up. If you understand the structure of the team, I don't feel like he's really put in the positions where, okay, Sean, go win. It's
yeah,
more Linny and Milk are going to be set up, and they're going to be given, you get any spot you want. You go run around. It's loose for you. Everyone else is on the leash. And if underscore Sean can perform in the positions he's in and in the situations and roles he's playing, then I think it's GG. And I think he is consistent form right now. I think that's going to be a 2-0. And that's probably the best game we've got. That's 2 weeks from
really,
now.
that's one of the best games I think that
Yeah.
we'll have all this season. I think
Yeah.
that obviously I'm biased in saying that I think us we're going to be an interesting matchup against each other.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan,
Sucking
is
each
that
other
bullshit
off.
or is that going to be a good game?
Yeah, I think maybe just because the teams do seem quite matched, especially after Ulster have upgraded. Like, it's so interesting how changing one player brings up the floor a little bit, but then your ceiling also goes up at the exact same time.
Yeah.
I think it'll be an interesting mix, especially it depends what maps it ends up on. I don't, obviously you guys in UCD are best at Inferno, and I haven't seen Ulster play Inferno yet.
I don't think you will.
I mean, you never know.
I don't want to throw any spoilers out there or anything, but I'm not sure if we'll be seeing Inferno in the series.
Oh man, yeah, I pegged just for ballsy motherfuckers, like, you know what I mean. I would have thought Inferno comes out of there, but I do think, yeah, especially as we start to go towards playoffs, I think that's going to be in these next 2 weeks. It's going to be a pretty good game. I don't know if it'll be that important to the group overall, as obviously I think, is it the last week you guys are playing?
Yeah, I think Group C is pretty
Yeah.
set. I think
It'll be
I haven't
seeding,
checked the
though.
standings, but I think ULB would have to 2 both us and QUB to get fourth. I think.
Yes,
So-
it's they're only 2 off, so it sort of depends what the next couple of games hold, but essentially, yeah, I think that's the way it's going to say. Obviously, seeding is very important in playoffs and ice, because they're, if you're coming to the bottom of the seeding as Cubers currently is, you're going to get some real.
I would not
an
want to be
opponent.
going through bottom seed and playing
Yeah,
the likes
exactly.
of a DCU or a TUD. Like, that is
So if things
terrifying.
Yeah, if things hold the way they are, that match between you two is going to be important for, to get the easiest team coming into playoffs. But, it's not, you're not fighting for the bottom of seed either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, that number 1 seed is, like you were saying, it is just so important. And when I saw this group, I kind of figured we probably would get 1 or 2. Looking at how likely, and now I don't think Ice is actually how they're seeding the next stage, as far as I know. I haven't seen it anyway. Like, if you actually look at these groups, if we assume number 1 seed of, like, the winner of one group will play the 4th seed of one of the other groups. Like, if you look at the 4th best team in each of these groups, like, that's pretty winnable for the most part. No
That's
disrespect,
unreal.
obviously. But, like, if you look at Group A, for example, we've got TD, Back Six, UCC are going to win. Then it's between Maynooth or NUIG. That's a pretty nice game to have, whoever.
Yeah.
And then, like, even looking at Group B, we've got Trinity, WIT, DCU, probably NUIG. Another NUIG easy.
Yeah, like I was looking at some of those groups. That's kind of what I was saying about Group A. Like, it's just it's a bit of a wash. Like, there's no real like competitiveness in a sense. I think, like, it's quite obvious to predict a lot of what team's going to beat what in the likes of, like, a Group A or a Group B.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's why I guess it's set up this way. You get rewarded for winning your group,
exactly.
and, like, what reward it is this season. Like, I don't even know what will Group D. Do they have 4 people going through that group? That's fucking half the group.
I'd
More than
imagine
half the
so.
group.
Yeah.
They
The
got 4 people
majority
going
of their
through,
group are getting out. And, like,
so
who's the 4th?
who's going through bottom seeds there? Is it
So the Battlefly isn't fully updated. If you look at the group as it is, and I believe UCD beat UL, NCI beat TCD, and MTU beat TUD.
Okay, so maybe MTUB?
Yeah, I believe they're
like
they're going to be 4th.
Okay.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's handy enough. Yeah. I think any 4th seed is going to be a nice win, but maybe other teams are saying the same thing about us.
Yeah,
Ben.
I mean,
when do you see this come back to bite us now? It's on
Yeah.
record. It's on record. So
exactly. Yeah.
come back and clown us when you win, guys.
Yeah. Well, then moving on, just to wrap things up here. Just looking at the rest of next week's games, I think we kind of established there's not really anything crazy happening. We've
I
got
think you guys against MTU will be an interesting one for me.
That's
Yeah.
probably the best of the week, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I mean, the way NUIG Griffin's Talon have been playing, they might lose to Buy, but I'd imagine it'd be a close series anyway. Aside from that, I don't really think there's anything close going on. UL3 Sports maybe will upset DCU. What do we reckon?
I'm
Gimpy
not putting
Potato with
money
a
on it,
Zeus.
but yeah.
Gimpy Potato, yeah.
Shout out Gimpy Potato. Get some Zeus,
Um,
bro.
Yeah, I don't think there's much going on for
Yeah.
week 6 at all, really. I think everything's kind of, as you said, shaping up as it kind of meant to. I think the
Yeah.
predictions that people would have made at the start of the season, or even halfway through the season, I think you can kind of always have told, and
Yeah.
you're able to tell for sure now that top 4 are really taking place now. Do we want to have a quick look at the overall standing so far, just as a last little thing?
Yeah,
See,
sure.
see how everyone's doing, where maybe we thought they'd be, and where they actually are. If we can pull that up, do we have that up?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, this is just a visual for what we were saying. I mean, Maynooth are right now in 4th in that group. I think that's a bit of a toss-up, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they have a game in hand though over NUIG Griffin's Talon, so I think they might be set depending on who
they
play.
do. Yeah. Who are Maynooth playing?
Let's see.
Last 2 here.
Maynooth,
UCC.
UCC, and then their last game is TD Apes, so they're potentially going to lose both. NUIG get to play MTUC, and they have a bye next week, so they could actually.
Okay, so they'll probably get 4th.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll probably have a switch up there then.
Yeah. I see that happening. No offense to. Well, I don't really know the players in Maynooth that well, but I don't see them beating the likes of a UCC, and especially not a TUD.
Yeah. And then Group B.
Has to be said, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got kind of a similar situation there.
Yeah.
Is it likely Apes AVP? You're an expert on these guys, Ryan. Is this the team with Langusta?
Yes, I believe it is. Which, looking back on it now, the fact that I made a video about a player from that team and now they might struggle to actually make playoffs. Maybe he needs rescued, but you know, it is what
That's
it
the
is.
confidence boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a dire group for anyone that isn't DCU.
Yeah.
WIT,
Really,
like
it just seems kind of crazy to me, that group. That I know WIT and TCD are 2nd and 3rd, but I feel like they've underperformed in a sense. I don't know. I feel like everyone had really high hopes for TCD, especially with having EKIP in the team.
Although it has to be said, they, I believe, still have a game in hand, and I think they're yet to play Waterford, I want to say.
That'll be an interesting one,
really?
maybe, you know.
Okay.
No, actually, hold on.
I think they did play.
Yeah, those standings must be a bit weird then. Or what did it end up in that one?
The Battlefly's a bit glitchy, to be fair. It's a bit funky.
Yeah,
no, I definitely would agree about the Trinity thing, though. I've teamed with
Trinity lost 2-0 to WIT.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Do we have the score handy?
Yeah, the first game they lost in OT. Yeah, EKIP got 41 frags. Like Twigs was the next highest on 21. So I think you're a bit mad for EKIP there. 1.77 rating and losing map 1.
That's yikes.
Honestly, if you look at that actual roster, though, like it shouldn't have to be EKIP hard carry.
Yeah, the likes of Quigs, like, you know, he's meant to be, well, to be fair, he came 2nd in both games here, but his teammates are right behind him, you know. In like the likes of Red Soul and Kronk and stuff here.
I mean, Kronk's a level 10. He's a solid player. I mean, Quigs, I don't know what it is about ice games, but doesn't seem to play like he normally does. I rave about him. Ben, you're not so sold on him.
I'm just not sold on him because every time you rave about him, he loses an ice game. So
yeah, maybe it's the curse. Maybe it's my fault.
Yeah. I think it's your fault. I think you should just stop talking about him.
Do you think it could be structured CS though?
That they're not playing, or they are playing?
Well, like, as in, do you think it's just the environment of the pressure and having to work within a team that maybe leads them to underperform, as opposed to, obviously, if you see him pugging, you know, there's not a lot of pressure there. You know, there's bragging rights, but that's about the height of it.
Yeah.
I don't know, because he was a former UCDB teammate for years, so I know he can play Team CS, and I know he was very good in it. But honestly, it could be that he's not really playing under a good IGL and not to toot my
or
own
the
horn.
right IGL, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like when I played with him, no, I wasn't really. It wasn't the most structured calls in the world, but I gave him the most room
Yeah.
because I understood what he was able to do. In the same way that maybe I think he's calling around himself, or maybe he keeps helping out. Like they don't really have an IGL, a real IGL. You know, they don't have someone who came in is like, I want to IGL this team more. Okay, I'll do it, kind of thing. Um, and like I know that there's definitely some internal issues in that team. In that, like Retzal and Quigs, more so Quigs and Retzal, go back and forth quite regularly. They're friends, but they just don't they can't play CS together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what you want in a team.
Bit like when I pug with Sam.
Exactly, yeah, the no pug list. Yeah, and then that's Trinity really. I mean, it's a tragic tale, but it is what it is. I mean, Quigs plays best when he can just do dumb shit and get away with it because he's
Yeah.
better. And in Ice, he's
I
not always
guess you can't
better.
do that as much in
Yeah.
Ice, yeah.
So that's the tragic tale of Michael Quigley. And then yeah, looking at Group C, we can see everything's shaping up as it should be. QB on
Yeah,
top.
I was surprised at the QB tie with MTU actually. I think they're probably kicking themselves a bit at that because they're now. Well, I know they have a map in hands, but they're now in fourth place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really not ideal for them. And I think Vertigo. I've been speaking to Ronan before, and I think they threw Vertigo a bit according to him. So yeah.
Yeah. And there's two teams that are yet to lose a game, just saying. One of them on
Oh,
top. However, QB haven't lost a game, or they haven't lost a single game, but they're still fourth.
Yeah.
Like that's
yeah.
they're gonna be mad about that. Like
Yeah,
technically
no, for
undefeated.
sure. The two ties being sort of more impactful than one loss is pretty rough for them. They were even their tie against you was even super close as well. They
Yeah,
could have went
16-14.
yeah, they could have went 3-1-1 against you guys, or they could have went with a tie against us, another 16-14. You know, so I think
Yeah,
this is probably the most competitive group. But in terms of top four, I think we all sort of knew that these were going to be the top four teams, and
Yeah.
likely the top four teams to get out.
yeah. And then finally, just for Group D, NCI, I'm just seeing now, haven't lost
Yeah.
a game yet.
Yep.
That is not something we would have expected.
Yeah, that's I'm really UCD just should have at least took a map off them. You know, that's kind of crazy the way it went that way. Yeah, I'm gonna bring up the Get 5 for the stats that match because
For
I'm
that
kind of
game.
interested in to see
Yeah.
who performs. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're talking about NCI, I mean, I think it's probably pretty clear cut. It's Comeback
Yeah.
King.
Yeah,
Comeback King's
definitely.
some player.
Like he's really just their hard carry. Well, not even their hard carry. To be fair, they have some other good players. They've Ledian over there now as a sub. He's a well-known player in the scene
Yeah.
at this stage. I'm actually looking. This is very
Mr.
off topic.
Erlan.
Exactly, Dr. Erlan himself. UL Tropics. Who the fuck did they beat? They have 2 wins on record.
Hold on. So
Surely
UL
that's wrong.
Tropics
They
are
no way. Oh, they beat MTU. They beat MTU.
and then they got a bye as well. The bye
Oh
counts
yeah,
as a
true,
win.
true, of course.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, how did they beat MTU? Even if it's MTUC, it could be MTUE, and I would be surprised.
So MTC, yeah. I mean, everyone's beat them, I suppose. So it was in the first week as well. So maybe they were just coming in quite cold to it. But yeah, that's unfortunate.
So you would be sad if you were Incipients on map 2 there. He got himself. I know it was an overtime game, it was single overtime, but he got himself 37 frags and couldn't bring them over the line.
Yeah, I mean, especially he's calling the strats while
Yeah,
doing that.
it's true.
Like if that was me, I'd be like, "How are you not just killing them?"
Just go click some heads, guys.
Yeah, God, that's unfortunate. But yeah, that's kind of like a nice little wrap up of what we've for the next 2 weeks in the season. We've kind of looked at what games we've had last week, what we've got on next week. Pretty boring games, in all honesty. The last like last week especially, not really anything crazy other than you somehow 2-0ing someone. Miracle.
It's possible.
And we're coming to the end of of the group stage in general, and I think we'll start seeing some really really exciting games come what is it, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now,
Yeah, 2 weeks from now. Yeah.
2 weeks from now we're into whatever ICE announced as the next stage, because it doesn't really go directly to quarters. I think there's another stage before that as far
Yeah,
as
there's
So
a
so
round of
they
16,
haven't
so-
announced like the whole format and stuff, have they?
no.
They've announced. I think they said that there was. Well, I don't know what way the seeding will go in terms of which groups playing which. But it's around to 16 and then in the quarters. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
And
mean,
I don't know if it'll be BO1s or BO3s for the round of 16 or not.
actually that'd be interesting. Yeah, I mean, a
Yeah.
BO3 would take 5 years. Like,
Yeah, it's true. If there's 16 teams, I'll have to play
yeah,
a BO3.
that'd be crazy.
But yeah.
But yeah, we've got a. I'd say once we get to that stage, we're gonna have some really interesting games. Hopefully, they can start streaming 2 games a night.
Yeah, hopefully. I suppose if it's BO3, they might not want to, but it would be
Yeah.
nice if even if you got a team that schedules in for 7 and one that schedules in for 9, for example,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just even something like that.
But yeah, I think that's gonna do it just for this. We'd have to bear with us just the first time we're doing it, just even getting
Yeah.
everyone's webcams on together and
Yeah.
the scuffed overlay that we've done, made by Jonathan Long himself. But yeah,
Young
thanks for
graphic
listening.
designer. Yeah,
We're
thank you guys.
we're hoping to do these live in the future, and the general plan is this would just kind of be an introductory episode, get the swing of things. Then we'd move on to live streaming these. Don't know where yet.
You
Figure
get a
that
few
out.
viewer questions from young,
Viewer
young
questions.
broken.
Yeah, get broken out of the chat, and then even bringing on players. I mean, Fleming now, that the guy for that in the scene, but
That's true.
the rest of us are. I'm definitely eager to get some people on, question some people as to
Yeah.
how they're losing these games, how they're winning these, all the
Crack
rest.
some of these IGL's brains.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see what the secret is.
See the go kill scrapbook.
Yeah, just hope that they don't embarrass themselves. You know what I mean? We could be sitting here saying certain people are really really smart, and then they come on and they just sound like they've had a book thrown at their head or something.
Go
Yeah.
plan mid.
Okay, you guys go for it. I'll go be with the bomb. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Shit like that.
But yeah, I think that'll do us. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Ciao.